when you get all your wire sheathing off, skinned, then what I like to do is I just like to twist the wire together so that it is all one piece, and makes it a little bit easier to put the sheathing or the shrink tube on that you're going to use to protect the wire when you're done. So I usually just put a piece of the shrink tube on, make sure it's skinned back far enough, because when it gets hot it's going to shrink down. So I like to make sure that I've got plenty of room so that the heat doesn't shrink the shrink tubing. I've got two pieces of wire I want to join together for whatever purpose that is. They're both skint, and I got my piece of shrink tubing on this side down over here, and I've got the other wires out of the way. So I'm going to take them and I'm going to twist the wires together. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a quick twist. Now I've got my rosin core solder wire, and as you can see, it's a RA flux, 0.050 diameter, 18 gauge, 2.2% flux, and they've got this. They've got solder in all kinds of different things like silver, tin, you name it, they've got it. And the main thing to look for is that it's not too thick. This is a good diameter for your wire, and that you want to make sure that it has a flux on it, which is a rosin flux. Helps the solder to flow. The torch lighter I'm going to be using is just a torch lighter you buy it at any convenience store, gas station, you name it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder these two pieces of wire together. You can see they're twisted, they're skinned. I've got my solder here, and basically the way you do it is, one thing you got to remember when you're soldering, you don't want to get it too hot too fast. So you want to kind of bring the flame in and watch how the solder reacts to the wire, because if you get the wire too hot, what'll happen is it'll cook the wire, and then the wire won't accept the solder, and you have to recut and reskin and all that good stuff. So one thing you need to do is you need to overlap the wire, the solder over the wire just a little bit, and then take your torch lighter and just come in real slow with it. And you can, that was a little bit messy solder job, but I think you get the idea. If you got extra you don't want on there, you can hit it with the torch lighter again, and then just kind of shake it and knock it off. But this wire is definitely soldered. The wire just sucks that solder up like a wick, and you can see it's soldered really good. And another way you can tell is the wire is kind of tough. Now what you can do is you can take your wire cutters or whatever, and you can cut the excess wire off that you don't need, and you can bend this over so it looks kind of like this. Bend it a little bit more, and then you take your shrink tube and put your shrink tube over it. Make sure it's somewhere in the middle. You can feel it with your fingers, and then you can hit it with the torch lighter again, and it'll shrink that shrink tube up. And you want to do both sides, so be sure and get both sides so it shrinks up good. And it'll actually adhere to the other wire sheathing. To this sheathing, it'll adhere to it together and kind of make one solid piece. It's kind of like it's vulcanizing, self-vulcanizing, or heat vulcanizing. Anyway, that's why you got a good connection, and you're not going to ground out on anything.